Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Katie and I'm so happy that you're here. Today we're going to be talking about common mistakes among beginner witches and just witch tips that I have for all of you, just for beginners. Some mistakes that were made that I definitely remember making was not researching enough. I know that everybody is always like, make sure you do your research, which I am one of those people. The thing is that I think there's a fine line and a balance between just jumping into it and not knowing what you're doing. Do you have something that you need to say? What do you have to say? Oh, we got a little grunt. There needs to be a balance between the two, because I have seen people tell me like,
I'm just researching so much and I'm like afraid to do it.
Or there's people who are like, I'm
just doing it without any research at all.
There needs to be a balance. Because I remember as a beginner, I didn't know about activating your herbs. I didn't know about like setting intentions. I just thought if I burned a sigil, it was good. There's a lot of power in our voice and a lot of power in statements said out loud with the intention behind it. So if you are burning a sigil and you don't say anything, it's not going to have the same effect as if you burn like a protection sigil and you say the intention of that sigil out loud as you burn it. Your spells aren't going to be as potent if you don't, or work at all if you use like herbs, if you don't tell the herbs what they're doing, if you don't wake them up, if you don't activate them. There's so much of that, like nuanced, like little things that I did not realize. Activate your herbs, put your intention, speak your words, etc. But don't get in too deep to the rabbit hole. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. You are going to fuck up. I'm sorry. Like, none of us are perfect. You're going to fuck up. You're not going to always be perfect at what you're doing. Sometimes a spell isn't going to work. And that's why it's just important to make mistakes and learn from them. That's kind of how I did deity work, honestly, is I made a lot of mistakes and I learned from them. And now I'm able to do it correctly, and I feel really good about how I do it. Another common mistake that I see is people not understanding what communication with their guides and deities are going to look like. We all have different gifts. The most common one is clairvoyance. You're not just going to hear somebody talking to you. A lot of it is in our head, which I know sounds crazy. If you don't feel like you're hearing what they're trying to tell you, don't be afraid to pick up a tarot deck or an oracle deck or a pendulum or like whatever you use. That's what divination is here for. Divination is used to be able to communicate with these beings in an easier way than what we are able to do. So don't be afraid to do that. A common mistake, ego work. I feel like a lot of people get into witchcraft and they don't really think about the work that goes into it. On New Age, like spirituality, like a lot of people call it an ego death, and I don't really like that term because your ego doesn't die, you still have it. I like just saying check your ego and like ego healing, ego work, because you need it. You need your ego. Your ego protects you. The actual definition of your ego is it's basically like a wall to prevent you from experiencing the same trauma again. Like, I had trauma with people trying to educate me, which is so bad, but because of some of the childhood trauma that I had, I always felt like if people were trying to tell me things that I didn't know, or trying to like educate me, I would, or even if they were like, hey Katie, you did this thing and it hurt my feelings,
Oh my God.
I would attack them because I felt like they were attacking my character. They were saying I was a bad person or that I was an idiot. And that was all ego, because my ego did not want me to experience that again. So your ego is your friend. It's wanting to help you. And sometimes in those situations, it's like, okay, thank you, ego, for protecting me. I'm okay though, you know? So check your ego. Don't be afraid to look into your shadow self and do that work. That is a big part of witchcraft, and I really don't think a lot of people think that way. Some of the reasons that spells don't work is because of the work that we need to put in mundanely. And the last common mistake that I see within new witches is religious trauma. It's not a mistake it's more of an awareness. A lot of us, not all, there have been a lot of people that I have encountered that I feel like are pretty lucky in the fact that they got to grow up with very like spiritually open guardians. A lot of us, I think, exit Christian or just very traditional religion households. And so exiting that and having that trauma and then starting to work with deities, we kind of put this religious trauma on them. A big mistake and things that I see on TikTok is, and that people, that clients ask me is, are my deities mad at me? And that's because a lot of the times we are taught that if we're not perfect and we don't go to church and we don't pray, God is going to be mad at us. And I remember being a kid and being like,
If I don't pray, God is literally going to ruin my life.
it's not it's not like that. It really isn't. Deities have been around for thousands of years, and their resurgence is because a lot of us are kind of finding these practices again. They've been around this whole time. They have seen how mental health has affected us. They see how our world is. They're not stupid. They're not just beings that are like,
All right, worship me or I'm not going to do anything nice for you.
that's just not how it is. I think about offerings as like a sign of respect, gratitude, exchange. It's not necessarily because I've never had a deity be like, you need to give me an offering for X, Y, and Z. Like, it's more of like, hey, like I am actually the one that's like, hey, if you help me with this, I'll get you X, Y, and Z or whatever you want. Typically for Loki, it's chocolate. When we have these moments where we're not practicing, we're not doing the things that we're supposed to be doing, our deities aren't mad at us. They want to help us. They want to help us through these situations. And I've had some people be like, well, I don't really feel them around. And it's like, they're still there. You're just not as connected, you know? Like, you're very disconnected, actually, because you're dealing with your own stuff. It doesn't mean that they're not here, trying to take care of you and trying to help you through it. If anything, they are hoping that you have the strength and the ability to talk to them. They also understand that you might not have that, and they care about us. It's not the same way as what we were taught. All right, well, that concludes this video of common mistakes within new beginner witches. I hope this helps you. This is definitely just from my own personal experiences, and I just want you to remember to trust your intuition and to remember that you are powerful and that you are more than capable of achieving these things and connecting with deities. So